Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about 7 things, I'm going to be going over episode 2 of Global Showdown. Now before I continue, please check out the links in the description below. I highly recommend the surveys, especially the redemption survey, so please fill those out if you have not already. Now onto the episode. We get a brief recap of episode 1 and then we see Teal going hunting. She talks about how there's a lot of big game on the other side of the river, and the narrator reminds the audience that the teams are given an optional challenge of building a bridge, and if they complete that challenge, they get 100 points. Then later that night, we see rhinos are seemingly around Dan and Rachel's shelter, and everything turns out okay, so that's good, because it would be very terrifying to have a rhino near your shelter at night. Day 3, and some of the teams are talking about their game plan for the bridge, and unfortunately, a scroll appears, and the scroll tells them that they need to make a torch and they need to go to the X on the map the next day. The torch is mandatory and will earn the teams 50 points. And for the teams building a bridge, it needs to be 3 rails bank to bank with a minimum of 8 rungs that are bound to the rails. And then Australia, Texas, USA East began working on their bridges. We get some Gabby backstory, and we see her and Matt working really well together. There's a point where Matt is cutting down a tree, but it catches on a branch of another tree, and Gabby climbs up the tree to cut the branch, and everything works out. And we know that Matt is a good engineer slash builder, so I think that they're going to work really well together throughout this competition, and hopefully they make it far. And then USA East, Texas, USA Pacific decide to work on bridges, and the other 3 teams decide to work on torches. And for the primitive torches, the handle must be at least 8 feet long with a wick system, and there can only be 1 torch but several wicks. Fernanda has experience building torches since she made one on her second challenge. USA South want to make their torch with 4 prongs at the end, so it'll make a crown to hold their wick. And then there's some miscommunication between Teal and Frank, where Teal is like, hey, do you want me to make a bunch of bird's nests? And it's very time consuming. And Frank is like, sure, make the bird's nest. And he goes, and he doesn't communicate the new method of the wick he's going to make, which are a bundle of sticks tied together. And there's a little bit of a tiff between the two, but they talk it out. And Frank talks about the importance of a partnership and how he's seen Teal's highs and lows and how she can get, because on Apocalypse, Teal had a really low moment. And so they work it out, fortunately, and so they continue working on their torch. And then Texas is dividing and conquering with their torches and bridge, but the bridge is taking longer than Jeff expected, and Kerra doesn't know where he is, and there's not really a lot of communication. And there's a point where Jeff is walking by Matt and Gabby talk about what they've accomplished so far, and Jeff thinks that Matt is just bragging, and it's nice to see this healthy rivalry, and I wonder how far it's gonna go. We shall see what happens. Throughout day 3, we see the teams working on their bridges and torches, and those who sought to build the bridges have completed them, and everyone has made their torches. And Fernanda has experience building torches because she made one on her second challenge, but she and Pablo are unable to test it out, so that may be some foreshadowing to future events. And then there's a little bit of tension between Dan and Rachel, because Rachel feels like she's not being heard, and Dan is very laser focused on the task ahead. And Alexa and Kai are working really well together. And Alexa talks about having Kai take the lead because she knows Kai's experience, and so they're working really well together, but they're exhausted after the bridge build and building the torch. And then that night, we see Team Brazil and Team Australia dealing with hyenas near their shelters, but the hyenas are scared away and everything's fine. And then day 4, the teams make their way to their challenge location with their torches and flags. Matt says Texas's torch won't work. After the reveal of the scoreboard, Team Brazil and Mexico are below the red line at 100 points each and in danger of elimination. Phase 1 of the multi-phase competition will be a test of how well the teams can keep their torches burning. They need to build a fire and light their torches, and they need to use it to drop a rock hanging from a pyre. When the rock falls, the team must then use the torch to release a bundle that is suspended from a tree that's really high in the air. And the first 5 teams that drop their bundle will advance to the next phase. 6th and 7th place will earn no additional points. In phase 2, they need to make a suspended trap with materials from the bundle and also a large rock. To complete the challenge, they need to be able to smash a gourd with the rock after the trap is triggered. The first place team will get 100 points, second gets 50, third gets 40, fourth gets 30, and fifth gets 20. The challenge starts and the teens work on phase 1. Fernanda mentioned she's worried because she didn't test their torch and they're a little bit behind. USA East is the first to burn their pyre, followed by Texas, Pacific, Brazil, and Australia. The teams then work on their suspended rock. Mexico and USA South are the last 2 teams to move on to the next part of the challenge. USA East is the first to complete phase 1. They then began working on their trap. Texas is the next team to work on their trap, followed by USA South. With only 2 spots left for phase 2, the other teams are very worried. USA Pacific is the next team to get to phase 2, and Australia takes the 5th spot to move on to phase 2, which means Mexico and Brazil will get no additional points. Both teams are still below the red line, which means they're in danger of elimination. But I wanted to point out that the elimination challenge is not immediately next episode. They're not doing the elimination challenge yet. It will happen, but not yet. So there's still a chance that Brazil and Mexico can make their way out of the bottom 2. The other 5 teams work on their traps. Dan has tunnel vision and is delayed on his instructions to Rachel, and he unfortunately breaks the Y stick twice, which causes some more tension, and Rachel is very frustrated. Kai knows what needs to be done, and Alexa is doing her best to keep up with the instructions, but they work really well together. Gabby accidentally wrapped the rope around a branch that they were using, but Matt manages to cut the rope and they're back on track. USA Pacific is not really communicating, and Dan accidentally hurts his back while trying to get the second Y stick, which he ends up breaking and has to get a third, but he ends up hurting his back, which is very bad news for his team's future in the challenge. Kai mentions pivoting after she realized the rock would land on the wrong spot and needs to adjust the trap. Kerra is following Jeff's lead, but she is confused and has to correct him many times. And after USA Pacific get the third Y stick, they're able to continue forward in the challenge. And after some tension between USA South, USA East, and Australia, as they're battling for first because the other 2 teams are a little bit behind, USA South is the first to complete the challenge, and they're at 300 points total. USA East are second and have 400 points overall. Australia is third and have 390 points overall. And then as USA Pacific and Texas battle for fourth, it's revealed that USA Pacific gets 4th place and they're at 230 points overall. Dan acknowledges the bickering and Rachel says it's fine and they will talk about it later. So hopefully they can chat a little bit, but according to trailers, there is a bit of an argument down the road, so that's very unfortunate. And Texas is in 5th place with 220 points overall. And at 300 points, the team unlocks a kudu hide, and at 400, they unlock a hatchet. USA South get a kudu hide and fishing kits. USA East get kudu hides and a fishing kit. Australia chooses the kudu hide. USA Pacific chooses bows and arrows and fishing kits. Texas chooses fishing kits and bows as well. Brazil chooses fishing lines and Mexico chooses bows and arrows. Dan and Rachel chat about not being below the red line and having a chance to get food, and Dan's back injury is worrying him and he calls a medic. He's asked questions about his condition because it may be due to dehydration, but Dan will be closely monitored and it's very worrisome for his team. So it's not really looking good for USA Pacific. And this is the 2nd episode in a row where USA Pacific is focused on at the end of an episode. So that may be some foreshadowing for later. And that is the end of the episode. Thank you all so much for listening. I also wanted to point out that Rene says if you don't play to win, don't play at all. And I feel like he may be saying that a lot throughout the season. So that may be the new catchphrase, which is good because we need a new catchphrase. And then for the final scoreboard for the episode, and first we have USA East with 400 points. Second is Australia with 390 points. Third is USA South with 300 points. Fourth is USA Pacific with 230 points. Fifth is Texas with 220 points. And tied for 6th and below the red line are Mexico and Brazil at 100 points each. Also for the number of days after episode 2, since this is day 4, Matt has 309 days, Jeff has 290 days, Dan has 203 days, Kai has 159 days, Gabby has 114 days, Frank has 74, Alexa and Teal have 60, Marina and Rene have 55, Fernanda and Kerra have 46, Rachel has 39, and Pablo has 25. Next episode, enter the zone. When prime hunting grounds are unlocked, several teams take down warthogs. In a multi-stage challenge, competitors pick seeds out of rhino dung and build complex traps. Texas surges forward and Jeff calls out Kai. A legend is sent to the first elimination. Dun dun dun! Thank you all so much for listening. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.